In this podcast episode, the NELK Boys sit down with Benjamin Netanyahu, the long-serving Prime Minister of Israel, for a wide-ranging conversation that touches on geopolitics, personal experiences, and the complex realities of the Middle East. Netanyahu reflects on his long-standing relationships with several American presidents, particularly emphasizing his close bond with Donald Trump. He praises Trump as a historic friend to Israel, describing him as a leader who is direct, humorous, and deeply committed to the U.S.-Israel alliance. Netanyahu credits their partnership with significant achievements, including joint operations against Iran's nuclear ambitions and shared efforts to combat terrorism. He contrasts this with his more complicated relationship with Joe Biden, marked by disagreements despite decades of acquaintance. The Prime Minister also touches on the broader American public's perception of Israel, expressing concern that younger generations may be influenced by misinformation and vilification campaigns. He stresses the importance of truth-telling as a means to counteract false narratives and highlights the role of social media in shaping opinions. Netanyahu offers a detailed defense of Israel as a pluralistic and free society, especially when compared to neighboring countries like Iran and the Gaza Strip under Hamas control. He points out Israel's openness, including its acceptance of LGBTQ+ individuals and women's active roles in society and the military. In stark contrast, he describes Iran and Hamas as oppressive regimes that commit human rights abuses, including the execution of women for minor offenses and the persecution of minorities. He explains the tragic civilian casualties in Gaza as a consequence of Hamas embedding itself within densely populated areas and deliberately preventing civilians from leaving, using them as human shields for propaganda purposes. Netanyahu insists that Israel takes extraordinary measures to minimize civilian harm, including issuing warnings and leaflets urging evacuation, but that Hamas's tactics complicate these efforts. The interview delves into the October 7th attacks by Hamas militants, which Netanyahu describes as a brutal and unprecedented massacre targeting civilians, including children, Holocaust survivors, and festival-goers. He recounts the horror of the attacks and the ongoing efforts to rescue hostages taken by Hamas, emphasizing Israel's commitment to recovering all captives alive if possible. Netanyahu shares that of the 255 hostages taken, 205 have been recovered, with many still alive, and that negotiations continue to secure the release of the remaining individuals. He also addresses criticisms regarding the timing and preparedness of Israel's response, acknowledging the need for investigation, but underscoring the complexity and scale of the attack. A significant portion of the conversation focuses on Iran's nuclear program and ballistic missile capabilities, which Netanyahu identifies as existential threats to Israel and the United States. He credits the Trump administration and Israeli military operations with delaying Iran's nuclear ambitions and destroying key facilities, describing these actions as necessary to prevent catastrophic outcomes. Netanyahu expresses hope for peace with the Iranian people, distinguishing them from the current regime, which he characterizes as a brutal theocracy responsible for widespread oppression and terrorism. He envisions a future where the Iranian populace rises against their rulers, leading to a more peaceful and cooperative relationship with Israel and the West. The Prime Minister shares personal stories from his military service, including his time in an elite special forces unit and involvement in high-profile operations such as the rescue of hostages from hijacked planes. He recounts the physical and psychological challenges of military life and the profound impact of losing close comrades. Netanyahu emphasizes the importance of living a purposeful life, balancing dedication to one's country with family commitments. He also reflects on the sacrifices his family has made due to his public role, expressing regret for the hardships endured by his wife and children. Throughout the interview, Netanyahu comments on American social and political issues, including protests, anti-Semitism, and debates over law enforcement and economic policy. He criticizes movements that he perceives as undermining social order and enterprise, suggesting that reality will eventually correct misguided policies. He also praises the resilience and pride of American Jews and supporters of Israel, framing their solidarity as a response to ongoing threats. Netanyahu discusses Israel's transformation from a semi-socialist economy to a vibrant free market hub known for innovation and entrepreneurship. He highlights Tel Aviv as a symbol of this change, describing it as a liberal and dynamic city comparable to Miami in its energy and nightlife. The Prime Minister invites listeners to visit Israel to experience its culture and society firsthand, challenging common misconceptions. In concluding, Netanyahu reiterates his commitment to peace through strength, asserting that military readiness and decisive action are prerequisites for lasting stability. He expresses optimism about expanding peace agreements with Arab neighbors and hopes for a future where Iran no longer poses a nuclear threat.